Hey, welcome back to the weight room. Gonna have a little interview here. Listen in, learn some stuff. Sure we all will. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll catch you on the other side. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Would you like to kind of introduce yourself to the people?
All right. Well, my name's Connor Young. I'm 25 years old. I grew up in Sturgis, Michigan, which is a really small kind of rural town in southwest Michigan. Now I live in Kalamazoo, which is just a little bit north of there. I got into powerlifting. I think my first meet was in 2011, and since then I've been decently successful at it. My biggest total was 1932 at a 215-pound body weight at the time. And I'm the oldest running Animal Pack brand ambassador. I was one of the brand ambassadors before ambassadors were really a thing. And I manage a store called One-on-One Fitness. We sell body solid equipment and supplements, and I've been nationally qualified as a bodybuilder. But since that time, I've pretty much just taken up powerlifting. So I've kind of jumped back and forth as a hybrid athlete, but it's been a good time.
Why did you decide to start powerlifting after bodybuilding? You know, were you kind of just looking for a new challenge?
Well, I started off when I was training in high school, mostly for football at the time, but there was a man named Tavita Mokena. He's a Tongan, Polynesian guy, and he was a powerlifter. And so I did a couple just unsanctioned charity event powerlifting meets when I was younger. And that's the gym I trained in was a powerlifting gym, not a bodybuilding gym. So I kind of got my feet wet there, did the bodybuilding show, and I got into training. My heroes were always bodybuilders: Branch Warren, Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates. So I would, watch those guys for motivation, but I was surrounded by powerlifters. And after doing bodybuilding and seeing the stress that it causes on relationships and your life, and just how taxing it is, and how hard it is to reach, any sort of notable position in bodybuilding, I went back to powerlifting, and that's kind of where my genetics is. Powerlifting, I've been able to, maintain a pretty low body weight and still put up big numbers. So it was more returning to what I knew and what worked for me. And it is a different kind of challenge. It's a different kind of training, and it's a different kind of sacrifice that you need to give to powerlifting versus bodybuilding. I still try to keep in shape, but powerlifting has become my main goal, and that's what I've been more successful with. For me, it's like, to me, like competing, whether it's bodybuilding or powerlifting, what I really love is just lifting weights. I love training. And you know what? There are no meets or shows in the future. I would be in the gym 5-6 days a week, training my ass off because I love training. And so really whatever I do is just legitimizing what I'm doing in the gym. Because if you're spending all this time, I mean, you probably know this, all your friends and family are, what are you spending all this time in the gym for? And if you just, nothing, just because I love it, I don't really accept that answer. Not that I'm doing it for other people, but it's good to have some sort of goal that you're striving towards. And, bodybuilding is great. There's a certain intensity about, the training and the dieting and, timing out the meals, and you feel like you're on a mission. But if you're in a relationship or trying to manage school or work, that can be very difficult. And, powerlifting, there's just a certain adrenaline to it. But it's also, if you're trying to, make a name for yourself, gain followers, gain influence, I think it's a good idea to recognize and be aware of what your genetic gifts are. And for me, that's definitely powerlifting. I think I could be successful in bodybuilding if I gave it my all. I can be more successful in powerlifting giving it my all. Just recognizing that and kind of going with it. So I'd be good either way, but
right. It's kind of how there's multi-sport athletes out there who, Russell Wilson, for example, he could go play in the, play baseball. He got drafted, but he's an all-star caliber NFL player. Like, it's finding what you're best at. If you really want to be the best at something, it's finding what you're best at. And that, that means that you got to try multiple things until you find the one that works for you.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I just rehired, I'm not sure if you've heard of him before, Justin Harris. He's known for he was known originally for working with Steve Kucolo, and now he's Ben Pollock. He's worked with him, and they've made fantastic progress with Ben. And so I'm trying out his program, and just literally paid him yesterday. So I'm going to try bumping up a weight class. But Ben, you see a lot of guys, Larry Wheels, Ben Pollock, a lot of these guys have been able to maintain impressive physiques and still compete in the sport of powerlifting.
Right.
And so that's always something that's intrigued me because, when I was a kid first getting into weightlifting, you see videos of Marcus Rule or someone walking through a supermarket and everyone's looking at him like a monster. And that's always been really appealing to me. And so it'd be cool to be that, but also be a power lifter.
Yeah.
I think that's just awesome.
For the people that don't know, I mean, what's the real difference when you train and how you kind of recover and everything with powerlifting versus bodybuilding?
Powerlifting is very technical when it comes to form. It's not about just going balls to the wall all the time. At the beginning, when you're first getting into it, you can get with that, but after a while, you kind of have to dial it back and know when to take big attempts and, fine tune your deadlift, your squat, like all the little cues that put you ahead of everyone else. And so knowing when to go intense and when to back off. And I mean, there's a million and one different training philosophies. A lot of people train linearly. So as they get closer to a meet, they dial back the volume and up the intensity or the weight, so to speak. And it's not about necessarily even training the muscle. It's about getting a movement down to perfection. Whereas bodybuilding is the opposite. You're not training a movement, you're training a muscle. And so people that comment that, Branch Warren or Jay Cutler are using proper form on, bicep curls or something, I think they're kind of missing the point. It's not about this really, it absolutely matters. Don't get me wrong. But this body is about stimulating the muscle, causing stress on the body, and getting your body to create an adaptation to that stress. And so for me, bodybuilding, there's a certain balance between weight and volume. And for me, it's always leaning more towards the volume side when I see progress. And so it's just a different mentality behind the training, going for that pump, tearing the muscle down, going to absolute failure, where if you do that too often, training powerlifting style, you're just going to break your body down. And you see a lot of people on one side of the fence versus the other, kind of not understanding, because they'll look at things through the lens of bodybuilding or powerlifting and judge the other side. But really, two different sports. There's similarities between the two. Obviously, they're both barbell sports, and those people are training alongside each other at the gym. But there is a different mindset going into each one. Powerlifting is more form-based and more about patience, when to take big attempts. Whereas bodybuilding, you can go balls to the wall, just do drop sets, supersets, go to failure, really annihilate the muscle. And you see that's what whether it's Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, that's what they do. Obviously, you have to rest bodybuilding too. There's yin and yang to all of it. But it's a absolutely different mentality. And also with bodybuilding, anyone who's been even mildly successful knows it is all about the diet. Every carb matters, every gram of protein, if you want to diet for a show. Whereas powerlifting, and that's one of the appeals to me, is, if you want to stop by Chipotle and, get your protein source there, you're eating mostly for recovery. Now you have to, if you're, going to do meat, want to get in a certain weight class, you have to take that into account. But at the end of the day, as long as you're getting enough to recover from your training sets, you're going to be okay. Now, if you want to do a hybrid, then you're going to have to, take more of the nutrition into account. But you can get away with a lot. You have to be a little bit more particular in the gym and not so much in the kitchen. Whereas bodybuilding, everything you do in the kitchen absolutely matters. And in the gym, if you want to do, dumbbell press versus, barbell press, it doesn't really matter. You're stimulating the muscle. So the emphasis changes.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good overview of the difference. And I think people out there, they see in the gym or on social media, they see all these different athletes that with different goals and in different sports doing different things, and they want to incorporate it into their own program, even if they're not competing, but they kind of don't understand the ins and outs, like kind of like you just laid out. And so one day they'll be doing deadlift for 5x5, and the next day they'll be doing deadlift, or the next workout session they'll be doing a deadlift for 4x12, and they'll be like, why am I not seeing any progress? And I think it comes down to, you're not structured, you're not following anything, you're just kind of doing it. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're not seeking a goal. But if you're seeking that goal, find somebody that knows what's going on, that knows what they're doing. And I think that's a big part of it, is just understanding individual sports, individual just ideas and techniques. And like you said, there's a million and one different ways to do it. But if you're really looking for something, stick to a way for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of people, I've noticed this in powerlifting, they kind of find a certain program or, some sort of structure that works for them, and they become almost married to the idea, and they tend to, I don't want to say bully people to train different ways. It's the thing with bodybuilding. People find what works for them, then they really stick to it. But, the truth of it is, there's going to be different answers for everyone. If there was just one program that worked, everyone would follow that program, and you wouldn't have to research at all. You wouldn't have to do anything. You'd follow that template. But it's really easy to judge other people. But if you look at whether powerlifting or bodybuilding, you see like the top athletes. Compare the top five, and to you, they all have 5 different ways they got there.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a decent amount of people in the gym that are just doing it for fun. And if that's you, then whatever, just go in and do whatever you feel like. But if you want to make any sort of like meaningful progress, you're going to have to experiment around with different structures and see what works for you.
So what does your average kind of day as far as your diet and your exercise look like? You wake up, you do what first? What is the first thing that you're thinking about when it comes to making progress?
I get up, I've had recent, so it's going to change now with Justin Hair. So we'll see what that looks like. But every morning I have 4 to 6 eggs, and depending on whether it's 4 to 6, I'll have a protein shake. And then a certain amount of carbs, usually from rice. I've just recently started doing it again, just plain oatmeal. And the carb source will fluctuate depending on whether I'm trying to gain or lose weight. Then I'll just do a handful of almonds just to keep a fat source in there. And then a multivitamin, I take Animal Pack. And depending on what I'm doing, right now I'm taking classes, so they're online, but I still leave the apartment to go for that. And I try to eat 4 or 5 times a day. I'd really like to eat 6 times a day, but a lot I just get behind. So I'll pack a meal with me or stuff on the way back. I got a restaurant called Shawarma King that they kind of prep meals for me. And it's just chicken, beef, and rice. So I'll stop by there. I know the owner. So a lot of times, like when I'm on the road, I'll just stop and pick up a decent amount of food. Depending on, how long I'm be gone, I'll get 2 meals worth or just 1 meal worth. But I've always maintained at least a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And after a while, you can kind of eyeball it. So I know about what I'm getting. But, I'd say anywhere between 240, 260 grams of protein a day. So I keep moving. And then carbs completely fluctuate with what I'm trying to do. I'm really carb sensitive. So if I want to gain weight, now I'll look softer, but I'll increase carbs with each meal. And I mostly get that from rice. So I eat, if you look at my Instagram, I stay decently lean year round. And maybe it's detrimental to my strength. It might be more beneficial if I eat crappier. But if you look at my apartment, it's just almonds, rice, tuna, tilapia, beef, again, just the basics. And I have my route when I go to the grocery store. I get the same shit every time. And and there's really not a whole lot of fluctuation. I've maintained a resting weight at 230 to 235 to 240. And so I can manipulate water and glycogen and cut down to the 220s for competition. And then I can rebound back up with a 24-hour weigh-in if everything goes to plan. And so I've maintained this weight for the last, I think, 2 years now. And so this will be the first time I'm going up in weight. And so the main thing is going to be carb manipulation with this. I think, unless I'm mistaken, and we'll see what Justin does, but my protein should be about the same. And the carbs are going to be what determines the weight gain or loss. After you've done a couple bodybuilding shows, you really, if you're going to be successful with it, you really have to figure out in the process what your body responds to. And especially when you get down to that really dieted down state, your body's extremely sensitive to any sort of change. And so you learn a lot about what your body doesn't respond to. You learn the importance of digestibility. So there's certain carbs, like I go out, let's say I'm visiting family or out with a girl or something like that. We have pancakes, any sort of big carb source. I know that I'm going to have a time digesting it. And I almost have to go. I think it's just because I eat so boring. I'll have to go home and take a nap and recover from it. So I don't know if I'm partially gluten intolerant now after just eating the way I do for so long. But yeah, the biggest thing for me is digestibility, and just over time, if you do this, you kind of learn what works and what doesn't. And if you're new to this, you should absolutely experiment around with different diets. I know vertical diet works for a lot of people. If you want to try keto, that's not really good for strength, but I know some people that have had good success with that with weight loss. But after a while, you do enough diets, you kind of learn about yourself, and I kind of find my comfort zone where I can just cruise at and stick to that.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of have it figured out. Do you still find it as a challenge, or has it become more of like, this is what I know I'm going to eat and I'm okay with that? Or do you still think, man, I wish I could have this, this, and this? How does that kind of mentally?
I mean, with powerlifting, if it's really going to be an issue, then like just socially, I mean, you're with family, with a girl, whatever, and there's like a different food source that's going to be, I'm okay with that. Bodybuilding, that's a different story. You have to stick to your diet, and you have to learn to say no, and people get angry at you, but it's what you've chosen. But I don't feel like I'm missing out, and I don't really find it that difficult anymore, because it's just part of my routine. And one way I put it for people that maybe are new to this or struggling with it, if you have a certain goal, don't even think of the food as food. Just think of it as reps. Just think of it as part of your day. Because if you start comparing tuna and rice to things that you could be having, tuna and rice is always going to seem like shit.
Right.
So just think of it as something you're doing, like taking your multivitamin, doing reps in the gym. Almost disconnect it from, what food. You got to change your relationship with food, I think, if you really want to be successful with this, because that's what it comes down to so much of the time, at least in a physique aspect. But no, it's really just part of my routine. It's how I've eaten for years and how I'll continue to eat. But people that are outside of the sport, I dated a girl this summer, and she was really kind of thrown off by how I eat. And we went up north. I live in Michigan, so the Upper Peninsula is fun too. And I had mapped out, and I didn't think it was that big a deal, but I had mapped out where we could stop and get gas and what food was in that town. Like if there was a spot I could go get food, because I can't eat McDonald's, I just get sick. And she thought that was insane that I had this whole thing plotted out, which I thought I was being cool because we were eating on the road. But yeah, a lot of like people outside of this, lifestyle think I'm weird for it because it feels like I'm always eating. But to me, I don't notice it. I just go about my day, and I enjoy it. I think I just enjoy consistency in my life. And so I guess long story short, it's not a challenge after a while.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that you can switch back and forth like that from powerlifting to bodybuilding, and the way that the diet differs, and it's kind of not a factor for you like that. It's pretty cool. I bet a lot of people would struggle with that freedom and then with that strict restraint that has to go along with your physique.
Yeah, well, to people that are maybe listening that are struggling with a diet, like you're struggling with temptation, I know there's different mental tricks to it, but stop giving yourself that mental option. Like if you can just, and it's easy to say, hard to do, but if you're sitting there just thinking about, oh my God, I want cookies, I want cake, I want, whatever it is that's your vice. If you can just block that off as an option, like those things don't even exist, and this is just what I do, there's no other option, because what you're doing, what's causing that desire is you comparing, contrasting what you could have versus what's in front of you. And the other thing I do is I kind of look at, and this is maybe a bit pretentious on my part, but I've never said anything to anyone, is I look at, people eating McDonald's or whatever, or just not eating anything, and just think that's what weak people do. We're not weak. And so and that's just like a way to hype yourself up and get yourself through a diet. And if you're dieting down for a bodybuilding show, there's some suffering involved, and there's no way around it. So whatever mental trick you have to play, but for me, it's when it gets down to the wire, I do, that's not me, that's not what I do, I'm better than that, or just there is no other option. This is all the food that is. This, tuna and rice or chicken and rice, whatever it is, or chicken and beans if I'm no carbs. And so just getting the mental side of things correct can really make a difference on, how you approach it. Because if you start, and a lot of people start kind of panicking, midway through a prep when it starts getting hard, but if you have the mental strength to overcome that and keep yourself calm when you go through it, it's really going to make a big difference, and it's going to determine your success. Yeah,
I think that's a good way to look at it too, is, you said it before, but kind of the way you reset it there was, I don't do that. But thinking about it as a just another rep, thinking about, man, I got to get through this meal, and it's kind of like this meal's another workout I got to do. It's just part of what I have to do, and it's short term versus long term happiness. Do you want to eat that unhealthy thing now and be happy now, or do you want to be happy, a lot happier later?
Yeah, absolutely. And, take pride in, if you're dieting down and people think you're a weirdo, take pride that you're different, because at the end of the day, if you can, the results happen and you're standing there with the physique you couldn't obtain, or, in powerlifting with a total that, annihilates theirs, you work for that. And they're going to be sitting there like, oh shit, man, I wish I could do that. Well, you can, but you pay now or pay later. And I think I'm a big fan of a psychologist named Jordan Peterson. And it's, I think, the pursuit of happiness versus meaning. Because if you're just pursuing happiness and you just want those fleeting moments, and sitting on the couch eating ice cream or Oreos is going to do it for you.
Right.
I mean, that's instant reward. Sacrifice is, and really, like I said, I'm kind of in the mode where it's not, this grueling task or anything, but, you're focused on something bigger. You're focused on bettering yourself. And it's not about those little moments of happiness. You've found something more worth your time. And I take pride in that, because I see all sorts of people that, year after year, they'll, I want to do a bodybuilding, I want to look like this, that, but then, they're out at the bar with their buddies making the same mistakes and not actually taking the action to get there. And but it is a hard thing, and to get rid of those like small, short-term temptations that's no joke. Yeah, I would say it's the pursuit of large goals versus just small, fleeting moments of happiness, and having the discipline to get through that.
Yeah, I listened to a few things with him, with Jordan Peterson. Check anybody out that has like a different perspective from you, that, if you're looking for some advice, don't just go to your friends who are all doing the same thing. Go to somebody who either has that mental game or that physical game or whatever it is that you're looking to do. Go to somebody like that, and not necessarily somebody that is in your same group that is doing the same things as you, because that's not going to push you in the right direction. It's not going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, who you surround yourself with is, I think, completely vital to any sort of success. There's I forget where the quote comes from, but if you want to be a good carpenter, find yourself in the company of other good carpenters. And it's the same thing with, if you want to be a good weightlifter or you want to be successful, surround yourself with forward-thinking people. Because if you're around negative people or people that kind of bring you down, you're going to fall into those same patterns, because we're more easily influenced as humans than we'd like to admit. Who you surround yourself with is absolutely going to affect you, no matter how individual you think you are. And, the other thing is, if you're not, pushing your boundaries, like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you're the strongest person in the gym, you're probably in the wrong gym. You should always be looking for that next rung and looking for the bigger pond. Because if you can stay comfortable, a big fish in a small pond, or you can, but if you really want to, find your full potential, you're going to have to move out. And it's going to be, painful at times, but you have to find that next level and continue to ascend. Because you can get thinking, if you're just training at the rec center, whatever, or surrounded by small-minded people, you can get comfortable being the best out of that small group, but you're really going to limit yourself at the end of the day.
Do you find yourself surrounding yourself at the gym with those kind of people? Or are you somebody that goes in and, you look around, or you go in and you have those group of people that that are pushing you there? Or are you kind of the person that has that motivation, but you're just kind of in your own head at the gym and you're listening to your music? Which kind of lifter are you?
I need a little bit of both in my life, because there's certain days where I just want to be alone. I want to just focus. And I would say probably 60-70% of the time I want to train by myself, just me and my thoughts. And I'll listen to motivational videos or music of some kind. But then it does help to surround myself with people. Justin Harris is a good example. I have a friend named Justin Wells who has a kind of private gym in Sturgis, which is an hour away. But I'll drive an hour once or twice a week, because that guy is maybe the biggest psychopath I know. And I mean that in a good way. He's an absolute animal in the gym. And he's made insane progress. But he is just incredibly dedicated, and he's already become like a force in the state of Michigan. Him and his wife both are just incredible power. If you're watching, you'll follow at Wells Strength. This guy just before he squats beats his head against the barbell until it bleeds, which I'm not really like. I don't do that, but it's surrounding yourself with people like that. Or Skylar Brandt is he's the high totaling teen of all time. He totaled over 2,000. I think it was 2,110 pounds at 19 years old. And so I was training with him, training with Justin. And so you surround yourself with those people that are just, they're not even looking around at what's around. They're just dead set on shooting for the stars. And, what people are doing around it is almost irrelevant. And so I surround myself with those guys, but then there are times where I just want to be with myself, just me and my music. There's a certain state I can get into when I'm alone that I just can't get into with other people. And I keep, it's not like I only hang out with those people. I have different friend groups that are kind of separate. Well, guys that are just, some good old country boys that I like to, when I say drinking with them, I'll go get a burger or a piece of chicken or something, and they'll get a beer, and I'll just hang out with them. And it's just, they're more relaxing, and that's just, shoot the shit with them. But I think it's good to have different people that bring different elements to your life. I try not to be too one-dimensional and try to have something in my character beyond just a weightlifter.
A lot of people do tend to get stuck in what they do, and even if it's around a good group of people, you kind of find yourself becoming a one-dimensional person. And yeah, I think just broadening your mental game there with hanging out with different people, getting different perspectives is definitely a good thing to do, no matter what you're doing. And having those people too of, these people are kind of fun to hang out with. Like, these are my chill people. These are my push me people. It's okay to have both groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise I think you can kind of become, if you're only surrounding yourself with people that agree with you, then you're kind of limiting yourself and you kind of get dogmatic thinking. So I try to expose myself to liberal people, conservative people, and just try to get a bigger sense of what's going on. I know I'm kind of bouncing around subjects here, but I think it's good to have that balance and to really see what's going on. It gives you a better worldview. But with that being said, you have to be cautious of who you really invest time in, because if you invest time in the wrong people and surround yourself with them, they are going to bring you down. But it's good to communicate with as many people as you can and to get, their perspectives on things. That's, true for weightlifting, it is for life, because if you just train with the same group of friends that have the same training philosophies, you're not really going to be exposed to pieces of information that can completely change your situation.
What's your favorite thing to do in the gym? Your favorite movement, if you're in the powerlifting mode, is do you have one that you favor over the other?
My favorite is definitely the squat. I'm probably most genetically gifted at bench. That's what stands out. But man, there's something about squatting. Just the mental state you have to go in to be successful. But, there's an intensity to deadlift, to bench, to anything, but squat, putting that weight on your back, there's just always been something. And the people who haven't been there before, it's going to sound cheesy, but something spiritual to it, where you really have to tap in, especially for a PR or, hitting weights you've never hit before. You really have to go to this very serious, dark place and, just getting hyped up for that. I'll think about it the day beforehand. If I got a big attempt, I'll just be, driving, thinking about what I got to do. And, being able to go in and to overcome that or to conquer it is just a certain type of intensity that, for me, nothing else can parallel in the gym. There's definitely a different energy with bench and with deadlift than going into a squat. And I don't know what it is about the squat, but I've always admired guys with big squats more than anything else, which is, I think, kind of rare, because it's bench and deadlift. There's a lot of the newer powerlifters are all about the deadlift, and then every basic gym bro, hey, how much you bench? But man, if I see someone with a big squat, that is cool. And I've gotten a decent squat. I've hit in the gym at 775, and I think part of that is because it's just I get so hyped up for squat before anything else.
The squat is just so, it's like you're putting your life in your hands when you go under the bar, and it's do or die almost at that moment. You do something.
Yeah, and I think it's
so
that
basic of just squatting, but it's crazy.
It's all like the fear of if I step wrong, my knees can collapse and I'll never walk again.
Right.
There's, which maybe it's crazy, but it's the same thing with that I imagine skateboarders feel. You're still driving, anyone, bull riding. There's a certain danger to it, which gives it a certain kind of intensity, and there's a certain anxiety that goes along with it. And being able to conquer that is really something special. Yeah, I grew up with, my dad has a hell of a home gym, and he's got a poster on now I'm blanking out. The home, I don't know if you've ever seen it, about squatting. Not long ago in a gym far away, there was a young man once heard to say, but yeah, we got a lot of squatting in my old gym. Was animal pastor, and you just I forget that guy's name too, but it's a black and white picture, and the guy's got puke in front of him, and he's in this old dusty gym that just says "squat till you puke" on it, and that was in front of the squat rack. And so, I think I was just with people like that. I've just always really respected big squats, but yeah, that fear, that anxiety of getting under the bar and knowing that you might not be okay gives it a special kind of meaning.
Yeah, I think that it kind of separates people who want to take it seriously from those that want to just do fitness for fun, because it's hard. And if you're not in it with some kind of deep motivation, it's hard to do something hard. And whenever, you're under the bar with some weight on it, it's just like, it's an intimidating thing, but it's a good intimidation. It's like a go get an intimidation, but it really is something that you have to do it. And if you're not all in it, then you should not be doing it, because, like you said, one false move or one wrong move or not staying focused or controlling your breath or staying tight, I mean, anything could go wrong.
Well, there's been one or two times where I've been in the gym and I remember specifically there was one time, because I watched this Dave Tate video, and he was talking about, he does this mental trick, or he would do it at meets, where he would imagine worst case scenario, like, benching and the bar comes down his throat and they have to cart him off in an ambulance. I'm like, I'm going to try that. And so I was imagining vividly me falling on squat, and I got so freaked out. I like, fuck this, I'm leaving. I'm just putting the weight away. And I had to, I had to like come back later because I was so wigged out. But that just shows like how intense I get before squats. But yeah, being able to overcome that is special. And I think it's funny, like, squat kind of separates people that are serious and not. Because I've got, there's a guy that goes to one of the gyms I go to. And I was kind of ribbing him a little bit because I never seen squatting. And he was like, yeah, dude, squats are scary. Fuck that. I'll just do bicep curls. But he's just sitting there. He's just a bro, just trying to, look good so he can get chicks or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, at least you're honest about it, man. Just, yeah, you're in here to do bicep curls and hang out with people. And that's okay, too, if that's all you want.
Yeah.
But, yeah, squat is definitely shows who's really intense and who's not. Because that's the one, everyone's got some sort of, I hurt my ankle or hip or back, whatever it is when it comes to squat. But then no one has a reason not to bench. No one has a hurt shoulder. It's
right.
Always, it's always the bad knee or whatever it is where you can't squat.
Yeah, definitely hear a lot of that, of those excuses that seem to only come up on leg days or on tough days that, I thought I saw you over there doing this, that, the other day. Oh, well, it was feeling good then, or, it wasn't raining then. My knee wasn't hurting or something like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
There's always a reason not to squat.
Do you have when it comes to just bodybuilding, do you have a favorite thing you like to do, or like a lift that you think that kind of, not like it sets you apart, but something that you go in and you enjoy doing and you really see the benefit of that maybe isn't the big three?
It's a tough one. I'm not really sure if there's one movement. I think just like overall the feeling of a pump and just training with supersets. Yeah, because it's not like I get like super hyped from like a certain kind of curl or certain kind of back exercise, but it's almost about like there's a certain, and it can only happen when I'm training alone, but there's a certain kind of meditative state you go into if you're really just, you get involved in your music and kind of almost stop listening to it, where you're just like going through the motions and just kind of letting it guide you. I'd say getting into that state more than any sort of specific movement. But there's like, not that it's anything I'm even trying to do, but if I do skull crushers with a straight, just 45-pound Olympic bar with a plate on each side, that's something that seems to impress people. Or curling with 135 seems to impress people, which I do that almost every arm day. And it's not really I shouldn't say every arm day, but it's not really a big deal for me. I'm also really strong with, I think shoulders is where my bench comes from, because I've been able to rep. Well, I just did 315 for a set of 10 it was on a Smith machine, but still it was military press. And then I think I had 70-pound dumbbells for lateral raises, which I just did like one, kind of went to a top set with that. So that always gets people, whoa, that's really cool, 3 plates on there. But it's not, I'm not trying to do that to, make a scene or anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't really
what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's more about like the intensity of the lift itself, versus, one specific movement.
it's just all about getting in a right mindset before you go in, and then staying in that mindset.
Yeah, man. There's been a couple. I just had that because I just did a charity event powerlifting meet, and then I was following kind of a program for that, and after that, it's like I got this weird kind of stasis period where I'm just kind of making it up when I go in the gym before I start this next program. And I thought it was really fun just going in, and it was a chest day, and I got done with everything I had planned. I'm like, oh, well, shit, man, I'm not done yet. Like, I still got energy to go. So I ended up spending another, like, he was at the gym for a total of like 3 hours. And there's, you only get so many lifts like that in your life. And so if you got the time, like, yeah, just go for it. And, but every now and then you hit that kind of sweet spot where you just don't want to stop. And, it's been really fun kind of going back to the high volume training.
Do you ever just go in and try something that's new and it's just, you say, hey, I want to try something that's just really, really challenging, really, really hard. Do you ever do that? You ever just say, I want to go in, and not necessarily like something that's written in your program?
Yes, but it would be after, like, so there's periods between powerlifting meets where I do experimenting around. I'll see, different, so there's all sorts of times I'll see, a different movement or different training philosophy or a different way to do something on, Instagram or Facebook, something like that. And when I'm in, prep for something, it's like, well, I'm not going to try new things right now. I'm going to stick to this program and follow it through. But then, like, in between periods, yeah, there's all sorts of, different movements I try. And some of them you learn something from, and some of them it's like, well, that was a load of shit. That felt awful. And you just, don't do that one again. But and I used to be more like that. I just try, kind of whatever came across before I really started competing. Like, I used to be really into Rich Piana, and there was, I think, 3 times I did his 8-hour arm workout where you bring meals to the gym, and me and my brother went in and a group of friends, and we all, like, did it together. And 8 hours is a long time to work out. It might not have been the smartest thing, but we had fun doing it. And,
nice.
If you're not competing for anything, yeah, go do some crazy shit with your friends and have fun with it.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine being in there for 8 hours, but that sounds like it'd be just a fun thing to do and a cool story at least,
Yeah.
What was it like? What was it like at the end?
God, there's just a different kind of sore that you're feeling, just a fatigue, and your reps are just pathetic at the end. You're just lifting nothing. And it was all arms, so you're just doing these like wimpy little curls at the end, just like so sore.
Yeah.
But I was like, 19, 18, something like that. I'm trying to remember what year I did that, but yeah, that's, it was just a fun time, but yeah, you stopped to like eat these meals in between, but Rich Piana at the gym I went to, it was like Animal Pack and Rich Piana were like the two. We follow like Frank McGrath and all those guys, but then Rich he started making his videos, and we just like, oh my god, this guy is the truth. We're gonna follow whatever this dude says, and we did, and R.I.P. Rich. But that was fun. I don't think I'd really recommend anyone do an 8-hour arm workout, but it was fun to experience at least. Actually, now that I think about it, back in the 70s, if you read Arnold's book, Education of a Bodybuilder, he did a thing where he went out in the woods and did like, it's a really cool story. He did like, he was trying to get his legs to grow, and he did like, I think it was 55 sets of squats just until he couldn't walk anymore. And so he had to carry him back to the car. So there's different stories of someone trying to bring up a lagging body part where they just traumatize it so bad that in the weeks and months to follow, it has no choice to grow, and just like taking it to that brink of destruction like that.
That's nuts. So
he gave a couple examples in the book of people that had done that before, where they just really broke down one body part they were trying to get to grow, and he did that with his legs to bring it up. He struggled with his legs and calves. So I don't know, maybe there's something to it, but arm workout, maybe just like 45 minutes, high volume, the way normal people do is probably the best way to go about it if you're trying to get big arms.
Yeah. Getting back to powerlifting, where do you see your career going in the next year, 2 years, 3 years?
My big goal is to try to hit a 2,000 pound total, and I've been my last meet was my last sanctioned meet, I should say, was the only meet that I really screwed up big on, and it was just horrible timing. My girlfriend is 3.5 years, and I broke up the night before, and so I had this just flawless prep. Everything was on the cue, and I just went down. And I didn't bomb out, but I only got my openers on bench and squat. And that was if everything would have come together, I would have had that 2,000 pound total and a 220 body weight in the 220 class. That would have been really impressive. But I did not. And so just trying to get back to that, but I'm going up a weight class, so I should be able to hit above 2,000 now, assuming everything comes together. Hopefully I don't eat these words later, but, yeah, I think it's just time to go up a weight class and put those numbers behind me because I've been kind of itching to grow for a long time. Now the stars are aligned. I'm just taking online classes right now, and I got my pretty consistent work schedule, so I think it won't be too hard to try new things and really take the dieting to another level. Yeah. Space out the meals properly and grow into it.
When it comes to, like you said, you're looking to move up in weight class and leave those numbers behind. Do you find that motivation comes from within yourself, or do you find that you want to do that to, not to beat somebody, but that you have somebody that you're looking to kind of challenge? Where does that come from?
It's absolutely just me and myself. I mean, like I was saying earlier, if I was the last man on earth, or if there was no Instagram, no powerlifting federations, no bodybuilding shows, I would still be in the gym because this is what I love to do. I love training. And to me, like, if you constantly compare yourself, and, we all do this. I do this too. If you compare yourself to people on Instagram or to the strong, you're always going to feel like shit, because there's always going to be someone out there that's, even if you're Mr. Olympia, you're going to look and someone's physique is going to be different and you might envy that. Or you can really beat yourself up if you go down the road of comparing and contrasting. So I've always told people, just focus on yourself. And I think if you do that, you can beat the other people without even focusing on them. And, everyone's motivations is different. There's some people that are in it, out of spite or to beat someone. And that really is what motivates them. But that's just not who I am. And so, yeah, I just try to beat what I did yesterday, and I find a lot of enjoyment in bettering myself. Because that's what got me into the weight room originally, just trying to better myself. And so, there's been times. There's actually a guy named Ben Pauly who we were kind of going back and forth for best lifter at. This was a meet in over by Detroit. I can't remember which one. But my girlfriend at the time was really confused because it came down to like this last deadlift, and if he would have got the deadlift, I think if he would have got the deadlift, he would have won best lifter, and he didn't get it. And I was, oh my God, he was so close. I thought he was going to get that. She's like, well, that's good though. You won best lifter. I'm like, yeah, but this guy worked really hard. I'm not really. I was rooting for him, and so I'm not out to put anyone down or anything like that. There's some guys that are kind of assholes, and it feels good to be like, yeah, that's right, stronger than you, but. At the end of the day, it's me versus me. Well, I think it's a Jordan Peterson quote. Don't compare your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 12.
Right.
Because, you don't know where they're at. But at the end of the day, if you know that you did everything you could, you walk out on that bodybuilding show or that powerlifting platform with pride because, that is your best. And, no matter where that is, because if you're like I said, and I'm repeating myself, but if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, you're going to end up disappointed. And if you're doing it to try to show somebody, that you're serious or this, that, the other thing, like they probably don't even give a shit what you're doing, to be honest. Like,
right.
If you're doing it like to show an ex-girlfriend or whatever it is, like they probably don't care if you bench 500 pounds.
Right.
But there have been times in my life that I've had, and that just happens when you start having success with something. There's been some people that get like there was a group of guys at one of the gym I go to that I know were because I had multiple people come up and they're, these guys are talking shit about you. They think that you think you're all that or whatever. I'm like, I don't even know these guys. Like, I don't know what their problem is. And I just kind of see them eyeballing me from across the gym. And then they said, I know the one guy's big thing was, he can't bench 500 in a meet. He can only do that at the gym, blah, 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 blah. And then I went bench 500 in a meet, had this big total, won best lifter. And I go back to the gym and he walks up to me like, hey man, so you got 500 in a meet. That's pretty cool. Oh, thanks. And I didn't even say like, yeah, that's right, bitch, or anything like that. It's just,
right.
But it was pretty satisfying, like seeing these guys. And then they started inviting me to come train with them. I said no, but it was. So there's times where it feels good to overcome someone else like that. But really, I'm mostly focused on myself. Just because if you really don't have a true if you're just doing this to impress someone else or to show someone, that I think is going to burn out over time. The only way you're going to find the desire to keep going for years and to really ascend to the top is if you're self-motivated, because the rest of that burns out, man.
Absolutely.
So it's got to come from within, definitely.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap everything up here, what's one piece of advice that you would give someone who wants to get into powerlifting, or maybe they're they're just getting into it? What would you say? Hey, I recommend this, or, do this or don't do this. What would your big piece of advice be for them?
I would say consistency is the key. That's something my dad told me day one when we started training. I don't know if it's a motivational or unmotivational truth, but the guy that gives, 70% effort and does it for 10 years is going to be farther than the guy that gives 110% effort for 6 months and then burns out. And the true greats are the ones that give 100% effort for that 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. But consistency is the key. It doesn't all come at once. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Just be patient and enjoy the process, because it's a Frank Zane quote, the path is actually the goal. And just really getting involved with the process and being passionate about the process is, what it's really all about, versus like the day of the meet. It's everything that goes behind it. Yeah. And, so consistency and patience. And also educate yourself. A lot of people just kind of, whatever the first thing they're told, they just go balls to the wall with it. I've seen that. There was a lot of people in my high school like that, and ended up being stronger than all them because they all had the same stupid training philosophy, and they all trained horribly. And it really didn't take that much to beat them, because they all had that same mentality. And educate yourself and stay consistent.
That's good advice. Definitely for powerlifting, for life in general. Just stay consistent.
Another thing with beginners, they're obsessed with, climbing. And a lot of people want to get sponsored. They want to be started. They want all this really quickly. It's like, that's going to come when you work on yourself. It's going to gravitate towards you when you deserve it. Don't try to, get it too early. Earn it. Go in the gym, focus on yourself, learn how to diet, learn how to train, and all that other stuff will come in time. But you chasing it, it's not going to work like that. You have to give people a reason to invest in you. The winning, being that best lifter or on stage with the trophy top of the bodybuilding show, that'll happen. But you got to focus on yourself and make yourself worthy.
So really, really great stuff overall. Appreciate you coming on the podcast. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your experience. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Weight Room. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, go subscribe. Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. You can find us on YouTube now. All our episodes are up there. I think a few are out of order, but not by much. It might be out of order by one episode here and there. But definitely check those out. Give us a subscribe on the YouTubes. Leave us a rating on Apple Podcast, or review. Appreciate all the support. Peace.